Hello and welcome to our junior church lesson for this week. As a review, last week we looked at Esther and we looked at Ezra, and we looked at how revival was going to take place. What is revival? Revival is when God's people come back to Him. Now we're also going to take a look at another component of this revival. Ezra was looking more on the church physical side, the temple side, with Ezra being the priest. So now we're going to go to another guy who lived in the same time frame. His name was Nehemiah. Many jokes have been made about this guy, the shortest guy there. Nehemiah, only knee high. Anyway, but Nehemiah is a man who was important in this whole gathering back to Jerusalem. They would never be able to lead on their own. They would never be able to be free. But they were able to kind of get back to some normalcy in life. So Nehemiah is a book that is filled with good, bad, but then rejoicing, and a lot of ups and downs. So, Nehemiah starts out in chapter 1, verse 3. Nehemiah prays. He mourns, he fasts, he knows the condition of what happened. The wall that protected Jerusalem was broken down many, many years ago when Nebuchadnezzar had come through and taken out the nation of Israel, destroyed it completely. And so he prays. He says in verse 5, I beseech thee, I ask you, I beg of you, God, this great and terrible God, that keepeth the covenant and mercy. He asks for requests. But the first thing he understands is this, is that they've done wrong. They have done things that were wrong, and because of that, you can't expect God to bless you when you do wrong. You really can't. I mean, it's almost like a parent asking their kid asking their parent, can I go do something, yet they keep constantly doing wrong. Is that parent going to give you what you want? No. There's a difference between getting what you want and constantly begging for it and not getting it. What do I mean by that? Simple. You misbehave, don't expect to go to a certain place. Don't expect to get a certain thing. But you constantly ask and beg for it and you're confused on why you can't get it. Well, there may be a reason why you cannot do that. Some people are afraid to go out to certain places because said child or other people, they don't act well when they go out. Or some, it's the opposite way. They're completely terrible at home, but then they go out and they're angels. But the first thing to understand is if you want God to bless you, you need to understand first that sometimes we do things wrong. Verse 7, we've dealt very corrupt against thee and have not kept the commandments. They realize, hey, you know what? We haven't done right. We really haven't. We've done a lot of things that are wrong. So then he asks, if you turn unto me, keep my commandments and do them, then God could bless. It could be prosperous. It could be great. So then Nehemiah starts to mourn after he has prayed. And he's been praying for quite a while. Chapter 2, the king wonders what's going on with him. Chapter 2, verse 2. Why is thy countenance sad, seeing thou art not sick? This is nothing else but sorrow of heart. And I was very sore afraid. He was a little afraid. He wasn't exactly sure. So he says, he was kind of a little delicate because he didn't want to say, hey, I want to go back, because it would sound like he would rebel. But he really cared about his homeland. Nehemiah cared about his country, his home. He's like, I can't help but be sad when the place where I used to live at is burning up. So the king's like, so what's your question? Nehemiah said, here's my question. If it's okay with you, I would like to go back. And I'd like to repair the walls. I'd like to look at the walls. See what they look like. And if it's able to be repaired, I would like to repair them. So he got letters, he got permissions to go, but he'd make a couple of enemies here, and we're going to be examining them more in the weeks to come. But in Nehemiah chapter 2, verse 10, Sanballat, the Horonite, and Tobiah, the servant, the Ammonite, heard of it. It grieved him exceedingly that there was a man to seek the welfare of the children of Israel. He was like, I don't know what to do. These guys were like, I can't believe someone's caring for these people. And so Nehemiah goes and finds out what's going on there. He goes to the gate, no place to go. And he sees that the walls are in trouble. They're burned with fire. So he wanted to ask a request to rebuild the wall. They said, verse 18, let us rise up and build. So they strengthened their hands for this good work. But when Sanballat, the Horonite, Tobiah, the servant, the Ammonite, and Geshem, the Arabian, heard it, they laughed us to scorn, despised us, and said, what is this thing that you do? Will you rebel against the king? They're like, you guys are going to go against the king, aren't you? You're going to find some way to rebuild this wall. And then you're going to try to go against the king. And you're going to find some way to just try to pull yourself out of the king's rule. It's not what they were asking for. Here's what they asked for in Nehemiah 2:20. The God of heaven will prosper us. Wherefore we as servants will arise and build. But you have no portion, nor right, nor memorial in Jerusalem. It's like, you guys have no stake in Jerusalem. There's nothing that you could do to kind of help us figure this out. There are things that are better left that we have to do. And so what do we see here as we open into Nehemiah is that Nehemiah does care. Sometimes we wonder, do people really care? And people do care. It's just sometimes they're hard to find. Nehemiah wanted to go back and see what was going on with his homeland. The king allowed him to, but he would have some people that would be going after him left and right. And we'll be looking at that in the next few weeks. Hope you're able to gain and learn a few things from today's lesson. And hope to see you again next week.